Welcome to Untapped Knowledge for College, presented by the College Knowledge Foundation. Join us as we untap the world of college admissions, financial aid, and student life through collective wisdom and engaging conversations.
Welcome back to another episode of Untapped Knowledge for College. I'm your host, Donovan Lindsay, and today we have a very special guest, Likitha Nala. If you haven't been following our podcast from the start, she is our actually first returning guest because she was here for our first season. So you may remember at that time she was a high school senior, but fast forward a year now, after talking about her application journey and what she kind of learned along the way, we're going to be talking about now, halfway through her first year in college. So today we'll catch up with her, hear about her experiences, challenges, surprises that she faced a little bit during her first year. We'll also touch on some key considerations about financial aid packages, comparing college options, and kind of making that college decision with confidence. So you definitely don't want to miss some of the insights that she has to give us here today. So, Lakitha, how are you?
Hey Donovan, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited that I was able to get you back on here. Something I've wanted to do for a while because I feel like for the students, especially who will listen to this episode, you'll be able to give them a lot of insight into so much of what's going through their head and so much of what may be going through their head very soon as they begin to get college offers and financial aid packages and accept their offers. So I definitely appreciate you being back here.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much. So, let's start just by catching up a little. How would you say, so far at least, your first year of college has been, and has there been any type of like surprises or anything that you feel like that has happened that you may not have expected?
So far, my first semester of college has been pretty great. Definitely a learning curve because you have so much more downtime in college, so you have to decide what you want to do, how you want to use your time. So, yeah.
I feel that that is something that is one of the most It's something that's not really talked about all that much. When I worked in college admissions, I would tell students all the time, like, you're going to spend, what, 7 or so hours in the classroom in high school? Whereas
Yeah.
in college, maybe you're spending 3 hours, 4 hours a day at most. So it's like there's a drastic amount of time that's going to be different and like what you have to do. So like the discipline
Yeah.
level has to drastically increase, which I know for me, I struggle with that for sure. My first year in college, having so much free time, like when it came to, just not the structure of having like a consistent bedtime, for instance, or
Hmm.
having classes just all sporadic through the day. The amount of naps I took during my first year of college, like, it's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, me too. Me too. And like my first semester, I truly lucked out with all of my classes. Um, my earliest class was at 10 a.m., so that really
Okay.
messed up my sleep schedule. And I upped the amount of credits I'm taking this semester, so like I have three 8 a.m.s now. So it's definitely a little a major difference,
hmm
but I think it's a good
Yeah.
discipliner. Yeah.
So would you say that decision to schedule more classes and have them be earlier was a direct result of the discipline of like your first semester and like, your earliest class being 10 a.m.? Like, do you feel like was that a very intentional decision just to kind of like help your day flow and your life flow?
So it was not intentional,
Okay.
at all. Basically, the class, so it's calc. I wanted
Okay.
to take it this semester just so that I could be done with math
Sure.
forever. Um, and there were only 5 spots left, and it was only for the 8 a.m. I would never take an 8 a.m. intentionally because I
Gotcha.
am not a morning person at all.
hmm
But even though it wasn't on purpose, I definitely see how it's forcing me to get stuff done on like earlier and then sleep earlier. So, yeah.
That makes sense. My earliest
Mhm.
class during my I think it was my second semester in college was 9:30 or like 9:25.
Yeah.
But my first semester in college, my earliest class was 10 a.m. also.
Hmm.
And I loved it because I didn't
Yeah.
have to get up. I mean, in high school, like I was up 4 hours prior to that just to get on the bus to then start classes or start school, homeroom at like 7:20 something or something like that. So
Yeah.
it was definitely anything later than that would have been great. But my earliest class in college for 4 years um was 9:30. And I
Yeah.
remember roommates getting up or like I'd hear them and they had 8 a.m.s and I'm like, that'd be like the bane of my existence. Like one semester actually I had classes that were I had a lot of adjunct professors
Mm-hmm.
in my program that taught. So those are the professors that basically adjunct professor they teach part-time, maybe one or two classes, but usually it's later at night when they're getting off of work. So
Hmm.
my major revolving around criminal justice, a lot of people in the criminal justice field. So I had professors that would come in, their badge would still be on them, or like their gun would still be on their back, or things like that. And a lot of them, because they taught at night, they only also taught once a week. So I had a lot of 3 hour classes that were only once a week. In
Oh.
one semester, I had four 6 p.m. classes,
Oh my God. Yeah.
like Monday through Thursday. So like Monday I had one, Tuesday I had one, Wednesday I had a different one, Thursday I had a different one. Tuesdays and Thursdays I had no, it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I had a 1 p.m. class. So I think it was like my fourth or fifth semester in college. My earliest class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday was 1 p.m.
Oh my gosh. That's
And
so
then
good.
Fridays, I remember my 1 p.m. class was my only class, which was great. And then
Yeah.
my Tuesdays and Thursdays, my earliest class was a 6 p.m. class. So like it was the most amazing semester I've
Yeah,
ever had.
for sure.
Can't complain
Yeah.
at all, but I know the struggle of so many people, taking an 8 a.m. and, just not being really used to that or staying up in college and
Yeah.
not being equipped to wake up that early. Whereas, that's why I asked, was it intentional? But I guess it wasn't for you. Just something that had to happen.
Yeah.
When you look back on kind of your high school journey, do you feel that high school really was able to prepare you for college? And if so, in what ways? And then what are some things that kind of have happened in college where it's been just something new, maybe like things that you like, high school didn't prepare me for this, but this is something I just had to kind of have to, learn and go through.
Yeah, I think definitely I'm blessed with the high school that I went to.
Okay.
Our teachers, they always held me to a higher standard, and it kind of simulated college in a way. And to be honest, like some aspects of college feel easier because
Mhm.
of my high school. So I'm truly so grateful for that. But definitely um a change is that in high school you're kind of held by the hand and you're guided through everything. In college,
Sure.
it's not so much like that. You have to learn to advocate for yourself
Yeah.
and just do everything independently. And I
Hmm.
think that that's a great learning curve because everyone needs to learn how to adult. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
sometimes that hits people like a ton of bricks when just, life happens in college and, you
Yeah.
just kind of have to figure things out.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I feel like that accountability piece is huge because, I've heard stories and I've been a part of things where I've seen people go up to the professor and they're like, they miss an assignment and they're like, well, you didn't email me or you didn't tell us last class. And he's like, it's on the syllabus.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, and I feel like there's a little bit more leeway, I feel, or that I experience at least with the younger professors. Whereas the
Hmm.
older professors, they were like, yeah, no, like you knew you had to do this. It's on the syllabus and that's it. Like there was no conversation about it. Whereas I feel like some
For
of the
sure.
younger professors or people who hadn't been teaching nearly as long, maybe there was a little bit more leeway. But the
Oh, yeah.
accountability aspect in college is vastly different than
Yeah.
the accountability aspect in high school was. I definitely remember
Hmm.
that for sure. And also being on the wrong end of that. Sometimes walking in the class, and I remember, I mean, nowadays, so many things are virtual where when I was in college, some of the things were virtual, you could turn in virtually, but a lot of it, you were up in the library or yeah, printing things out. And I remember this bin in one of my classes where like that was the bin that was there right at the door when assignments were due.
Mhm.
And I remember walking in, being in a line of people. I'm like, why is it taking so long to get into the class? And I see people putting things in this bin, and I'm like, and I had no idea why the bin was there. And I was like, something's due today.
Yeah.
So I remember that struggle, all too well.
Yeah, for sure. Like basically, for lab, last semester, my chem lab professor, he's actually a med student right now.
Okay.
So I think that was a benefit for me
Yeah.
because he was pretty easy with everything because he was like, okay, guys, I have stuff to do too. So like,
Yeah.
you know, take your time or, it's okay. So that was really nice
So a
compared
little
to
more
every,
like down to earth.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've talked about some of the classes and things, but we never actually talked about kind of what you're going to school for. So what are you going to school for currently?
I'm a pre-med major at Jefferson. It's
Hmm.
not that specific major isn't offered in many schools. It's
Yeah,
like a
correct.
pretty new major, but I really like it because I don't have to worry about missing a requirement for med school. So,
That's awesome. So going into college, was that also what you chose as your major going in, or have you changed your mind to that program?
it's been my major since
Okay.
day one. Yeah, I'm actually in a combined program, and that's pretty much the only major you can go in as. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah.
So do you have friends or roommates or anyone who has changed their major already, like after their first semester or during their first semester, or maybe not once, but multiple times? Like, have you experienced any friends or anything that has done that yet?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's inevitable. I mean, you just, you realize that something isn't what you want to do, and there's so many options, and truly, you just have to explore and see what's right for you. For example, I have a friend. She was a pre-med major, but
Hmm.
now she's a bio-psych major because she realized that she loved the psychology part
Yeah.
of med more than everything else. So
Hmm.
that's really beautiful to see you finding your own interests. So,
Yeah, that's good because I almost explain it to people like doing an internship when you're in college. Like you
mhm,
you you have to kind of try things that give you a little bit of experience to see, is this a career field that I even want to get into? And
yeah.
major wise, you're taking more of those basic classes to prepare you for those upper level classes, but you take like those general education classes during those first couple of years, and that can really open your mind to things that you never knew existed, such as,
Yeah.
your friend switching your major. I remember so many friends and people that I knew majoring in engineering, but kind of like
Mhm.
you were saying, taking calc. I remember them after like getting a D or C in calc, they're like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I had a friend, I remember he started out in engineering and then actually 5 or 6 years later graduated, but his degree was in psychology. So
Mm.
like drastically different ends of the spectrum, but he realized over time, class by class by class, that wasn't something for him, wasn't something that he could see himself doing. And he was definitely someone too that the calculus got to him. And he's like,
Oh yeah.
after, not doing so well in like his second calculus class, it's like, yeah, I need to make a change. I need to make a change for sure.
Calc makes me mad on so many levels. But yeah.
As you kind of look back and kind of reflect on your own college search, what were some of the things you feel like you did right? And what are some of the things that if you had to kind of press that reset button and go back a couple of years that you'd be like, now that I'm in college or kind of going through the college decision, like, is there anything that you may do differently? Or, potentially what's your advice to our listeners as to what they can do now to kind of prepare themselves for all of the things coming up?
Mhm. So some things that I did right. So looking back, I remembered how clueless I was with everything. Especially as the eldest in my family and the first one pursuing like a college career in the US. My
Yeah.
parents didn't really know how to guide me, so I had to do everything by myself from scratch.
So you're like the pro
So
now in the family.
kind of it makes me nervous every time my parents are like, okay, yeah, you have to guide your brothers, like you did this, you have to guide your brothers. But I'm like, sure, sure. But yeah, like something that I did right though would be how I created a list of all the schools that I was interested in and
Hmm.
also highlighted any cool programs that they had that would benefit me specifically as a pre-med. But if it's anyone else, like if you're going into engineering or business, like, just making that well-defined list with everything that you're looking for, that's
Sure.
really important so that you could kind of, you know, like funnel down and like
Yeah.
see what's right for you. So yeah.
So on the opposite end, are there things that you feel that if you kind of reset your own college search journey, like are there things that you wish you may have done differently?
So in the previous podcast, I talked about my procrastination problem. So I think definitely my time management and procrastination has gotten a lot better
That's good.
now because I've just held myself more accountable for that.
Hmm.
But it was a pretty big problem then. I mean,
Hmm.
hey, listen, I was a successful procrastinator. Everything was still like getting in on time and everything. But the one thing I really, really regret was not finishing my Common App essay
Hmm.
before senior year, like before everything opened up.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, I think that having that initial essay, like that common essay being done, you can just apply to any like rolling admission um,
Sure.
colleges like Pitt, or there's like a bunch more. But
Hmm.
I feel like having that done, it takes so much stress away and you can just focus on supplements instead of like the
The big one.
basic essay. Yeah.
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 So do you remember at what point you actually created your own Common App like profile?
So I created my Common App profile, ironically, at the beginning of the summer before senior year, but
Okay.
I didn't touch it really until like August.
Uh-huh.
Um, I regret that because it was so stressful with everything else happening. So
Hmm.
yeah, if you're watching this, just like at least try to get some ideas before. So yeah.
So if students kind of right now, whether they're, in their senior year, whether they're in their junior year, kind of, not having applied yet, but
Hmm.
are, just kind of narrowing things down, visiting, what advice would you give to a high school junior or senior who's feeling just like overwhelmed in what they're doing right now?
Honestly, just know that you're not alone. Like it truly is overwhelming. And I know that there's some smarty pants around you telling you, oh, like, it's so easy. Oh yeah, I submit that thing like last year. Or no, just know that a lot of other people who are in the same boat and that you just have to take your time and, you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like after all of this, you can goof off for the rest of your senior year or after everything. So
Yeah.
just hold yourself accountable, but also know that it's okay to feel stressed.
And when it comes to like feeling stressed, like what were some of the resources or strategies that you utilize to kind of help you through your college search?
Um, Definitely talking to any friends who are in college or just searching up online, how I dealt with all the chaos of
Hmm.
college applications. Like, truly, I feel like seeing other people who went through the same thing as you, it helps you relate and know that it's okay to feel stressed.
So, what when you look at kind of your junior and high school years, Also, like, was there anything like that your school did or any programs that you were a part of that may have helped you, just kind of navigating your college search?
Um, so College Knowledge was a big resource for me. Donovan here, thank you so much. He helped me with mock interviews, and it really, really helped take a lot of stress out of those specific interviews that I had to do. I was allowed a space where I could fail and then learn from that failure. So that was really helpful. And yeah, College Knowledge, that's a big resource.
I would say since you would have gone through some of our sessions, even though like it wasn't something you had paid for. We've actually made all of our virtual sessions free, so people can go to our website and sign up for our college interviewing session, where we kind of prepare students as to how to make the most out of your interview, how to prepare. College essay writing. I feel like college interviewing and college essay writing are probably two of the biggest stressors of students. So those are two things for sure that I know students like to take advantage of. When we post and kind of host um, those different types of sessions. But, again, I always tell students you're not alone. There are resources out there. Um, some high schools do a better job than others. Some organizations do better than others. Some, the again, you're not alone. There are so many different types of things out there, and if we can be the connection to someone or just kind of coming to us, I always encourage students to do that because it is an overwhelming process. And
Yeah.
especially in a student's case where they may be the first person in their family to go to college, like who do they go to? That's literally one of the biggest reasons I thought about the idea to start college knowledge because I know, it's stressful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not everyone has an older brother or older sister that you can just kind of piggyback off of. So
Hmm.
I think that's why just know that, it's okay to be clueless and that
Sure.
there's so many resources like College Knowledge where it's literally you can just search. It's one search online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, students right now who may be getting their decision or students right now just beginning their college search and are beginning to visit schools, Um, what would you say when it comes to kind of finding that right fit? Like, what should students do, or what things should they look into, or think about when it comes to finding that fit? Because you're going to be there, for 4 years of your life or more. So,
Yeah.
what were some of the what's some of the advice you would give, and some of the things that you would say helped you find that fit?
So I think something that a lot of people need to take in mind is that yes, you're looking for the best program and whatnot, but also you're spending so much time here. And especially that transition from high school and college, like you're going from living with your family all the time, seeing them every single day, to being by yourself, you know. So you just have to know, like, if you feel miserable at your school, but it has this great program, you're not going to be happy. And above all, your happiness is what matters the most. So just think realistically and yes, like take into account of the programs offered and whatever, but just think, am I going to like this campus? Do I see
Mhm.
myself here? So I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I feel like again, students don't realize the amount of time that they have outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
And like for me, for instance, my sophomore year in college, I was involved in about 16 or so different clubs. I mean,
Hmm.
I never suggest to students to get that involved, but like I knew where the balance was. So
Hmm.
once you kind of find that balance, you can kind of get involved more in those types of things. But so much of your time in college, it's not in the classroom. Most of your time is outside the classroom. So, you're getting this huge education, but so much of your education actually comes from outside of the classroom. But you have to feel comfortable in that environment because, long story
Exactly.
short, if you don't feel comfortable in that environment, you're not going to be successful academically. And I would see time
Exactly.
after time students who would follow in their brother or sister's footsteps, or they follow one of their best friends, or they'd follow a
Yeah.
boyfriend or girlfriend, and they get there and they're like, "Ah, this sucks. Like, I don't really like it." But they didn't
Yeah.
know what else to do. So it's like,
Yeah.
you really have to, make that decision for yourself, not really let too many. external factors that really influence that decision.
Exactly. Like you want to decide, oh, do I want major sports teams? Like, do I want to go watch sports or
Hmm.
do I want like a lot of parties at my school or
Hmm.
city life, a quiet atmosphere? Because like every school is different depending on where it is exactly and what it's known
Drastically,
for.
yeah.
So I
Hmm.
think you have to also do that research on
Yeah.
top of academics.
Yeah, I mean, like, we were just talking before we started recording how much it's snowing outside right now,
Yeah.
and I know I forget where it is. There's a school that has a college that has like a lazy river that goes around the campus. So I'm like,
Are you serious?
yeah, I mean, like the things that colleges and universities do to like attract students is drastically
Yeah,
different. But what's going to appeal to you? Having warm
exactly.
weather where you've got this lazy river on campus, or is it going to be the snow or the ski slopes that's nearby? It's drastically
Yeah,
different depending on who you are and
exactly.
kind of what you're interested in.
Exactly.
This time of the year at times can be stressful for students and their parents because they're getting their college acceptances, which is great, but then they're
Mhm.
also getting their financial aid packages. So when you get a financial aid package, that really is going to detail how much money that you're going to get from the school and or the government. So when looking at kind of making a decision as to, kind of comparing things, do you remember kind of anything that helped you or how you kind of looked at and kind of compared different schools based off of like scholarships or things you were potentially getting from a school?
Um, so the one thing that I really thought about and made sure to keep like in my mind is to
Hmm.
think realistically. You have to think, are you paying for your own education? Like, are your parents or guardians helping you out? Like, you have to take all of these factors into mind before making that final decision because you don't want to burden yourself like, you know, 4 or 5 years later and think, oh, maybe I could have gone to this other school that could have made me equally as happy, but for a fraction of the price,
Sure.
and um, definitely that was something that I made sure to think about. And navigating federal aid, scholarships, and everything, definitely I am not very good at FAFSA.
Hmm.
And I kind of just took FAFSA out of my mind because I wasn't offered much from
Sure.
FAFSA.
Yeah.
But scholarships, I feel like whenever you have decided on which school you want to commit to or thinking about committing to, keep an eye out on like specific school offered scholarships. And there's just a lot of others, and there's websites that just have random scholarships that you can apply to. Like you just write like a one paragraph essay or,
Yeah.
and I think it's just important to just apply periodically, like take an hour out of every week or 2 hours
Hmm.
out of every week and just,
Being consistent.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that is a huge um it's something that a high school student struggles with
Hmm.
normally, is that, they'll do it almost like a spurt of like, oh, all this time is going to be spent on doing this, but you have to do it time after time after time after time because students, I remember from my own experience, I had a class in college called careers class, and it was taught on the basis of everyone in the class was either going into a career after high school or going into college after high school. And one of the stories that the high school counselor told us who taught the class was about how there was a student that he had about 2 years ago prior to having us, but she went online religiously, like every single day, and applied for scholarships and grants day after day after day from when she was in 11th grade up until she started college, and she was awarded in total over $750,000 in scholarships and grants. But she did this for a year and a half, and she went time after time, day after day, and she did this. She was very consistent. I only wish I had that consistency in it within me, because as
Yeah.
someone now, a couple years out of many years now out of college, still paying back student loans. Like I definitely understand how important it is to
Yeah,
to do that work on the front end. So on the back end, you don't have to stress out as much, and you kind of keep some more money from yourself. And then when you talk about, the whole financial aid packages, those things they can be drastically different depending on the school.
exactly.
One school can offer you, 10,000, or another
Hmm.
school can offer you 2,000, but the school offering you 2,000, maybe their tuition's only 10,000. So there's
Yeah.
so many things I feel that students and their parents need to take into account because tuition is drastically different. The fees can be drastically different. In addition to the requirements for some of the things that you get could be different. Some scholarships, for instance, could require you to maintain a 3.5 GPA to keep the scholarship. These are the things that, students need to know because if you don't think that you're a 3.5 type of student, then maybe that your first semester is going to be great because you're not paying a lot of money, but then that may disappear because you're not eligible for it. So I think one of the things for students to also think about too is the grants, the scholarships, the loans that you may be receiving,
Mhm.
what's attached to them.
Yeah.
What are the requirements to keep them? Because I was someone who didn't maintain a GPA one of my semesters, and I saw that my bill wasn't paid for some of the as much as I thought it would be paid for, and I'm like, wait, where's the rest of this money? And then I called the financial aid office, and like, well, you didn't maintain whatever the GPA was, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. So, some of
Yeah.
it's trial and error, but the more you can think about, the more resources that you have at your fingertips, of course, the better that you can be prepared. So, fast forward to accepting your college offer. Is there anything that you did or wish you did to prepare yourself after kind of signing on the dotted line to accept your offer? So between accepting your offer and just starting first day of college, is there anything in between that you did to prepare yourself or advice that you would give to your younger self as to, I should have did this to kind of help me a little bit more?
As of right now, I think I'm honestly pretty happy with what I
Okay.
did before. I don't really see anything that I would change right now. Maybe
Hmm.
like next year, I'm like, I would think of something. But genuinely, this was advice that I took from my mom. She was basically like, just chill out this summer. Like, just
Hmm.
relax because it's your final summer before school, college, not high school. Because once you start college, even during the summers, you might want to do internships or research or just
Sure.
something else, right? So you don't really have that big break anymore that you would have had in high school or middle school or elementary school. So
Hmm.
just like keep an open mind and have fun and work. Just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say one thing that I wish that I feel like I would have done is kind of research more on like the campus jobs because
Yeah.
I feel like I heard about campus jobs, just one week and I was like, oh, okay, let me look. And there was a bunch. And I was like, oh, I could have applied for some of these during the summer. Some of the
Mhm.
returning students know that, but I also wanted to make some money while I was in college,
Yeah.
outside of, the financial aid or support from my family. But
Mhm.
I feel like that was one of the things where I was like, I wish I would have looked more into that. I can't say it affected me much because at one point I had three on-campus jobs. I knew some of like my roommates couldn't get one, and they're like, "How do you have three?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I was like rolling in the dough at one point in college. Like I'd buy groceries, but I was definitely the person that bought groceries, and that same night I'd be eating out because I'm like, I don't
Oh.
know. And I would say another thing too, because I had some medical issues with my stomach when I was in high school, is to
Mhm.
like look at what types of resources and support services that were
Yeah.
there, because I feel like that helped me also a lot.
Yeah.
Being able to know, okay, these were my issues in high school. I
Mhm.
probably will have these same medical issues in college, and let me see what types of resources and support with like the health and wellness centers or things like that on campus. That was probably two things I would say. I kind of did the health part, but I didn't do the other part when it came to like the jobs, but definitely some
Mhm.
advice I would give to students.
Yeah.
Speaking a little bit about campus resources, are there any types of campus resources or services that you have utilized during your first year that you feel has helped you out at all?
Um, so yeah, like the really great thing about college is that there are career services and your tuition is fully paying for that. You have to know that it's right there. You just have to
Yeah.
go and get the help, you
Hmm.
know? That's what a lot of people forget is like there are resources in your vicinity, but just make sure that you're actually going out and taking a hold of those resources. For example, I recently went to the Career Services Center at my school and I sat down with a professional and she helped me make an academic CV to
Nice.
apply to internships. So that was really great because I was genuinely so clueless. But yeah, I learned so much and they literally do it with you.
Hmm.
So that was really great. And also peer tutoring, everything is
Ooh.
free and these people are professionals. You just have to go and do it. Like that's the thing. Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is um is great being that you're in your first year. And I don't know what it is, and maybe you could tell me if you have friends but do you find a lot of your friends are utilizing these services? Because I often feel like a student in their first year, they kind of know it's there, but they're not taking that initiative. I don't know if it's pride or what, but I feel like they're like too like full of themselves to take advantage of these resources. And as an employee of a university, I used to look at students and I'm like, you have all these free resources. Like you do you know how much you're paying in tuition? And like
Yeah.
they're not taking advantage of it. So do you have any idea why you feel like there's that hesitation by students going in their first year? I mean, obviously you're taking advantage of it, but any idea as to why students don't?
To be honest, I think one of the biggest reasons why students don't is because they don't know that it's out there.
Okay.
Um, I feel like you're trying to take in everything, and that's one
Yeah.
of the last things in your mind. And I think definitely the circle of friends that you're in, like
Mm,
whoever is surrounding you every single day, that affects a lot of your decisions. Um, because a bunch of the friends that I've made in college, they're super motivated and they're trying to constantly improve themselves, and that's helped a lot. And it's forced me to also know about these resources and take a hold of them. So I think that's another thing, and this is an aside, but if you think that your circle isn't good, just find a new circle. Even if it takes a while, just, find the right group of people that you want to be around. So,
yeah, I feel, I mean, in college, if you can learn that in college, I mean, that's amazing. But the environment is so crucial to anyone's success. I mean,
yeah.
speaking as someone who's started multiple businesses and I will go out and into the community and just do work for people, but you attract people who are like you.
Hmm.
And it's so important that you surround yourself with those people because I was fortunate enough to surround myself with people too who were, somewhat motivated, who knew the
Hmm.
campus well, who knew the resources. So
Yeah.
as soon as I need something, I was texting, this person or this person. And
Yeah.
I did I did peer tutoring, not from the aspects of the tutorer as a tutoree. But I would go to peer tutoring. I would go to the professional tutoring. Like there were a bunch of different resources that I took advantage of, but only because I knew that they existed. So I feel like that's a huge point. But also, again, that environment. I mean, you're in your first year, but like, you see things year after year after year after year where it's like that person needs to disconnect from these people
Yeah.
because it's like that they're not helping them at all. They probably won't be friends after they graduate, but like you can just tell like someone's not good for the environment.
Yeah.
But so much of your success anywhere in life will definitely will come from the environment for sure.
Yeah.
And then last question I have for you. What would you say, if anything, should be the mindset of a student stepping into their first year of college?
So I think you just need to go into college with a growth mindset. And
Mm.
that sounds like such a mom line, but genuinely, you just have to go in with a and uh, be ready to fail and learn because you're not going to be good at everything from the start. And you're gonna come across so many different people, so many different types of egos. Um, there, some people, they're super humble and down to earth, and then other people, not so much.
Hmm.
And you just have to learn to have thicker skin and just know that you're your own competition, like you're your biggest competition, and you shouldn't think lesser of yourself based off of someone else's accomplishments. So,
Yeah, I mean that's great answer. I mean, I feel like we should now do like a motivational podcast because of your response there. But so much of it too, like all of what I kept hearing, especially when you talked about the growth mindset, was back to how we were talking about your environment,
mhm,
because you have to have people that's going to allow you to grow and not stunt your growth. Like who's
yeah,
continually watering you? Who's continually, who are you continually watering? Like, how are you kind of creating and cultivating that environment of growth? Because that's what you're in college for. You're going to spend 4 or so years there and it's going to fly by, but it's so important that you take advantage of all the things that it has to offer and stepping out of your comfort zone. And, like you were
yeah,
saying, not being afraid to fail and kind of just fall flat on your face, but you learn from it. Everything you kind of
yeah,
learn from.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been amazing having you back on the podcast and hearing about your journey through, your first semester or so of college and of course, your insights that have been hopefully extremely valuable for our listeners. And, the college journey, it's not something that's easy for a lot of students, but it is something that is important to, I feel, talk about often because it is something that's all of our listeners are going through, or if it's a parent listening, their student's going to go through. How can you kind of help, kind of shape and shape that journey to be just a little bit less stressful for them, a little bit
Yeah.
less anxiety. But for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Untapped Knowledge for College. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with anyone you feel that would benefit from it. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and keep pursuing your college dreams. Thanks, Likitha. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Untapped Knowledge for College. Join us next time as we continue to untap the wisdom and guidance essential for success on your college journey. Follow us on Spotify or click the link in the description below to follow us on other platforms. Visit our website if you're interested in booking a session.